and welcome to another episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason, just a little bit on the east side of Tulsa, and I'm right by the east side of, or East Route 66 sculpture, as they call it, and I'll have the west one and hopefully one of my later videos. But this is one of the first of many Route 66 videos here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Cyrus Avery lived most of his life, and he's buried here. I will have a video based on Cyrus Avery, and it includes going to his grave. But there are 29 historical markers erected back in 2019 based on Route 66 heritage in Tulsa. And I'm standing next to the first one, which is about Route 66 motels. And I'll go ahead and show that to you. So I'm outside the Daylight Donuts Corporation. I did not know, I hope this is true. They have their corporate headquarters here. So yeah, a little fun fact there for you. I've eaten at the one in Grand City before. All right, so here is the first of 29. Now, I'm not going to visit all 29 of these. Here's a map, and they actually provide you one at each location. And I am right here. And Route 66 does split off because the road was moved in many different ways. And so I'll be visiting all those locations. But again, I won't be doing videos for each one because, yeah, that's one too many. So I kind of picked some interesting spots. Hopefully you feel the same way about them being interesting. So, but because this is the first one, I decided to do a video here at Route 66 motels. Now back in the day, before motels, there were hotels, and then there were tourist courts and cabins and whatnot, and you'll see a lot of them along Route 66. Most of them abandoned, some of them restored. But but hotels were mostly for the rich. They were like the place where the rich and the people with money, and they could dance to jazz bands and whatnot. What do you call it? Hotel dance bands like Glenn Miller Orchestra. But motels were a cheap alternative for families to sleep, and many of them were placed along Route 66. So auto enthusiasts camped along the roadside or in organized tourist campgrounds beginning in the 1920s. They developed along busier highways when highways were becoming more of a common thing here in America. And they were typically located outside of city centers. And a lot of them featured like a service station, a swimming pool, even a restaurant. I mean, you can tell times have really changed, like when you see places like Quick Trip or Love's or a lot of those travel stops or truck stops. And by the way, Quick Trip has its headquarters here in Tulsa as well. And in one of my other videos in Tulsa, you'll see Quick Trip there. But a number of roadside motels soared through the 1930s and again after World War II. And I remember reading a story on Glenn Miller, like during World War II, you know, after the war was over, he wanted to invest in motels because that's where he thought he'd make his money. Well, unfortunately, he did not live to see the end of the war. But would it have been a better investment? Who knows? It depends. But many motels are still around today. Then, of course, these days, a lot of people are doing the whole Airbnb or Vrbo thing, and that's become more common the last few years. So who knows what the future holds for motels. And here is a list of some of the 11 motels clustered along Route 66 east of Tulsa from the 1920s and 1950s. Some of them you might have heard of. I know you probably heard of the Western Inn because those are seen throughout America. I've been in Tulsa for almost 24 hours and I've seen a lot of these lawyer signs. But here is the East Gate that lets you know that this is the beginning of Route 66 when coming from the east. There is a west one on the west end of town, across the river, the Arkansas River, that is. Pretty cool. And as I was saying, if you're wanting to travel the Route 66 Mother Road route, there is a sign that's helpful that's up the road. It'll let you know which alignments to take and, you know, just kind of go your own way, you know, to get your kicks. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason. on the east end of Tulsa, where Route 66 begins from the east. Stay tuned for some more Route 66 videos. I am Jason, signing off.